Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Today, obviously, we're going to be going through how to make a vintage sample in FL Studio. This is going to be a super easy, super simple tutorial. You'll be able to emulate this style almost exactly without too much trouble. So yeah, I'm really giving away the sauce right now, but trust me, when I say sauce, it's not so much the sauce itself, it's how you use it. But enough waffling, let's get into it. So we're here in FL Studio, and as you can see, we only have 5 instruments. Now, when you're starting to make these vintage samples, choosing a slower BPM usually is a lot easier because I find the slower tempos sort of match the vibe as well. And you can use either a major or a minor key, but for the most part, if you want dark melodies, obviously you want to use a minor key. Any minor key works, so just choose your favorite one. Slow tempo between like 80 and 90 BPM and a minor key is where you want to start off. So I usually start with the piano here. So there's quite a few notes here, but we'll break it down and make it quite simple here. So all we have here are minor 7th chords, and we're in A minor, so it's basically all the white keys, which is easy to write in if you ever want to do that. But we're in A minor, we've got an A minor 7th here, but we're actually not starting on the 1, which is something to take note of. I have these root notes playing 2 octaves below. They start on the 1, and it gives it a nice arpeggiation. I'm going from an octave below to an octave above for the root of the chord. So basically, we're on quarter note beat grid here. This is the main one I use. And basically, every second quarter note, so basically it's every half beat, we're playing another note. So we go from the root, which playing 2 octave notes at the same time, to playing each note in the minor 7th chord, 1 half note after each other. Now, if you don't know how to make a minor 7th, I can show you. Basically, all you want to do, there's 2 ways to do it. You can go to the stamps up here, you go advanced, and then you come down here and minor 7th. And all you gotta do is click that, and every time you click, we'll give you a minor 7th chord. So if we go down to A minor, you can see that it's using the same notes as what I've got here. But if you don't want to use the stamps, you can Alt B to bring up the scale highlighting here. You can see the difference between the notes where some are light gray, some are black. The light gray notes are the notes in your scale. What you can do is middle click and right click at the same time to bring up this little menu. You go to view, scale highlighting, make sure you're in minor, and you pick any root note. For this sample, we're in A minor, so we're going to click A minor here. And what you can see here is basically every second gray line creates a chord in the scale. So if you want to create a chord in the scale, whether it's just a regular triad, a 7th, a 9th, an 11th, a 13th, just go every second note in the scale until you get to your desired chord. Usually I don't go any higher than 7ths, but it's totally up to you and what you think sounds good. And the only reason this is a minor is because of the position in the scale. Without going into too much music theory, in a minor scale, the 1st, 4th, and 5th are all minor chords, and the 3rd, 6th, and 7th are major chords. The 2nd is diminished, but that's something completely different. Anyway, so I've got our minor 7th arpeggiation, and what I've done here, I've gone and arpeggiated upwards, but also I've chopped it every half step again going down. So this is what it sounds like. Very simple. And I've gone up here to the top notes. You can use any notes you want and any configuration you want, but I like having a second note coming in with the root. Now in this case, I'm just playing the 7th, which is the exact same note as the 7th in the minor chord, pitched up an octave, playing on the 1st. And then we have the 5th playing with the 3rd on the 2nd arpeggiation. So for me, I like that in this case. You can use any note in the scale at any stage of the arpeggiation. It's totally up to you. You can arpeggiate up, you can arpeggiate down. That's how you get some variation in this, but very simple. This is just copy and pasted over to here, and then I've gone down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones to get to E minor. Now this arpeggiation is the exact same. All I've done differently here are these top notes. So here I chose to use the A, which is the root of the previous chord, which helps glue the whole sample together. We've got C, which is just another note. G, which is the 3rd in this root note in this case. B, which is the 5th. D, which is the 7th. And C, again from the 1st half. So as you can see, we're using a lot of the notes from the actual chord. When you're creating melodies, that's something that really helps. using the notes from the chords is a really basic, simple way to get a nice sounding melody on top of your chords. So if you're struggling, just use some of the notes from the chords pitched up or down an octave, or even within the chord itself, just to get some variation, and that'll get you on your way. Yeah, that's that pattern, and I obviously just copied that over to the second half. It is exactly the same. Another quick tip, Alt-R, randomize your velocities, and slight panning too if you want to, just to give it a little bit more realistic feel. And also, if it's a little bit loud and a little bit harsh, you can press Alt-X to bring up the scaling menu and just turn it down a little bit. This will make your piano sound a little bit softer. Now I've gone ahead and put two effects on the piano. I've got an EQ cutting out the low frequencies to make room for the sub bass or the 808 that's going to be in the track. I've got Fruity Flanger, which is just a stock preset, and I've turned the mix level down to about 40% because it was a little bit harsh originally. I've also bumped up the stereo separation by about 20 to 30% just to give it a little bit more width. So all up with the effects on it, it sounds like this. I'll exaggerate the flanger so that you can hear it. Very nice. The easiest thing to move on to next would be this expand bell. Basically, it's the exact same as the piano, except the whole thing's pitched up one octave, and as you can see, I've removed the bass notes here. And I'm using the Digi Octabells in expand. This is the preset right here. I've gone and put the stock preset of Fruity Chorus on here too, with the mix at about 50%, and some Fruity Reverb too with the wet knob turned up a little bit, and a little bit of stereo separation. This is something I like doing on my reverb. If it's not sounding quite as full as I want it to, you just turn this stereo separation up a tiny bit, and it really fills out the reverb. So if you haven't played it with this knob at all, definitely give it a go. I've also bumped up the stereo separation on the bells to about 90%, and this is what they sound like. Actually, I just realized, apologies. I just realized it's not the exact same as the piano. So the only difference is that each chord is extended another half note, and I've just added another arpeggiation during the end here. So it goes up and then down and then up again. Just one note. Next, we'll go to this texture here. One great tip for ambient dark samples is to make a texture from a sound you already have. And an easy way to do this is just by arming your piano track to record, Alt-R, render that as a file. And you can go in here, reverse. And what you do is you just cut every bar, and then you drag the back one to the front and so forth like this, just to make sure all the notes and chords are in the same order as they were before, because remember we reversed it. Now it sounds like this. And all I've done here is routed it to a mixer track, put infinite space echo boy. This is in the reverb and spaces category. Infinite spaces right here. And all I've done here is turn down the feedback a little bit, so the reverb tail isn't as long as it is originally. And that's how I made this texture up here. Just before I show you what it sounds like, again, bumped up the stereo separation by about 25%, give it a little bit more width, and it sounds like this. Next up, we've got a sub bass. I made this one myself. It's very simple, but one thing I really recommend you do is finding a go-to sub bass that you can just whack on nearly every sample, because once you find one that you really like, you don't really need to go too far from that, if you know what I mean. Obviously, each bass has its place, but if you have one go-to sub bass, it makes your life a whole lot easier, and this is mine. So I'll show you how to make it really quickly. You turn on the sub oscillator, you put it in a triangle wave, you've just got the default oscillator, you turn the unison up to 8, you detune it down a little bit, you select the MG low 12 filter, turn the cutoff down a little bit, bump the resonant frequency up a tad. This filter cutoff is at 213 Hertz. Turn the noise oscillator on. I've got the Atmosphere 5 preset here. I haven't touched that at all. And then depending on whether you want the slides, you can turn on the legato feature. But for this case, I didn't. All I'm doing is playing the root notes of the piano, which is A and E, as you know from before. This is what it sounds like. So as you can hear, it's sounding a lot like the final sample. But we have one sound to go, and that is the Piccolo from BBC Symphony Orchestra. This is a free VST. All you need to do is fill out a survey or something, I believe, and wait a week, but that's it. I use this VST a lot. Highly recommend. Go grab it for yourself. But yeah, I've got this Piccolo preset, just playing this simple melody. Again, if you remember the chords we were using here, right here we were using A minor. And if you look here, this is an A minor chord, right? So we're just using the 5th note of the A minor chord as the melody. And the 5th of every chord, it usually sounds very good as a melody an octave above or with whatever other instrument you're using. We have some exceptions, like this D here isn't actually in the E minor chord that is playing here, but it sounds good, so who cares? This E and G in the A minor triad that plays the first 2 bars, as well as the A, which is the root note. So a lot of these notes are actually in the notes in the chord, like I was saying before. And I've just got more 3D reverb too on this Piccolo. Turn the wet up and the stereo separation up again, and it sounds like this. Sounds really nice with that reverb on. I love it. I love it. Those are each of the individual sounds. The final thing I did was route all the instruments except the sub bass to a separate bus, and I put Cymatic's Origin on here. I turned this filter down a tad, turned the movement to about 15%, saturation at about 15%, and I've got this, I'm not sure if you call it real noise, tape noise or whatever it is. I've got that playing very quietly as well, to give it that really vintage feel. This free plugin is what, in my opinion, puts the cherry on the cake for the vintage sound. So this, put it on your instrument buses, is completely free. It's going to completely change the sound of your samples. So yeah, that's it. I hope this helped. If you got anything from this video, leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Hit the bell notification to be notified next time I post a video, because I post quite a few. Anyway, I hope you're well wherever you're watching from in the world. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next video. And as always, I love you.